Hello, everybody. I know that I said I wasn't going to let you go that long without uh, giving you a video, but I shouldn't make promises that I don't know that I'm not intentionally going to keep. But I just got back from vacation not too long ago, and the vacation, it consisted of my daughter's wedding and me spending time with my grandchildren I haven't seen in a while. So I kind of bit more off than I could chew when I said that I was going to do a video there. Although I brought my things to do the video, it just the time. I never had the time to do it. But my vacation was absolutely wonderful. I needed that. I needed to spend the time with my family and giving my daughter, well, not really giving her away, but being there for her as her uh, second maid of honor. I guess Mama wasn't good enough for the first one, but uh, it was just absolutely wonderful. I loved it. And I have been working on Galatia, and I am nearly done with Galatia. So it's interesting because Galatia and the time that they were in Pont de Lima in the ancient city in Viana do Castelo, and then they went to Pont de Lima, from Galatia or from Pont de Lima to Galatia is a week. It is about a week. The dates are off just by within a week, because they end up in Galatia like the 4th or the 5th. I can't remember exactly, maybe the 5th of Galatia. And they did say they had a smooth passage in Galatia, and it's very interesting in what's going on. So I can't wait to get ready to give you that. But as I said, I really don't have anything for a basis of comparison into the center of where Galatia is. So I'm really dedicating a lot of my time to uncovering what is around the Galatian circle there. But it's very interesting. Now I'm going to do page 2 on the voynich manuscript. Now, to just recap on page 1, Ian was telling us that he got a permission with 15 men to hide the 10 Commandments within art inside a manuscript. So the resting place of the Ark of the Covenant and the 10 Commandments would be secured within a hiding place in the art of the manuscript. And that's basically what page 1 was telling us. Now, and we do know that they are in Navarre, or yeah, they're in Navarre. They're actually from Tudela, which is a autonomous community within Navarre. Navarre is its own little community. So they're in Tudela, and they're talking about, documenting and hiding within their village, their town, what they're doing. And then we go to page 2, and I have some really interesting things, to show you in the pictures. So don't forget, get the link and follow along if you can, or just watch the video, and then you'll go back and listen to me and then follow along, or however way you feel comfortable. But just know that the link does, in the description, does hold information for you to be more hands-on and eyes-on, so you can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Okay, now on page 2, it starts out where it says everything that I have in yellow, highlighted in yellow on this link, on this documentation here that I have, is everything that I took out of the voynich manuscript. Anything that's not highlighted is just added things for you to read and things to prove my point as to what I'm saying. But anyway, let's get going and let's see where we get. It's pretty interesting. I got some really interesting information here. And then the next one that I got up, I'm definitely going to have to get Galatia up, because that is definitely an interesting piece of work too. And I just want to thank you for going on this journey with me, and thank you for being patient. I'm so sorry, as I said, that, I haven't really had the time to get it done, but I'm not leaving. If you could just hang on, I promise it's all going to be worth it. And at the end of this video, I got some things that that I'm doing that I'd like to go over with you for this year. Some things that I'm going to be doing this year that's really exciting, and I think that you'd appreciate them. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to page 2. The evil rivals from the massive stone pillars of sin in the kingdom on the mountainside line the town with forest trees that display their royal ancestry. We secretly hide in silence beneath the darkened shadows of their mounds. The nobility of the mountain kingdom produces little intrusion for now, but we have no disruptions in our ability to write and document for our lineage. Together we gather with high expectations as we exist in stolen peace and remain silent beneath the cover of the mountains. Now, one thing I can say about this writer here, and I believe that the writer is Ian, because it makes already there's been verifiable evidence that it's Ian that is documenting. He's in charge of everything. He's in charge of the artwork, you know, checking the artwork, making sure that it's approved, and being hands-on, really hands-on. But I think that he's got more than just hands-on. He's connected, deeply, deeply connected to this position that, you know, he was granted. And you have to be in a high position in order to be trusted with such a task. I mean, the Ark of the Covenant, really? If the fact of the matter remains true and what I'm taking out is true, this right here speaks and proves so much that the Bible is real, that the stories in the Bible actually are real. And although I know that they're real, but I'm just saying historical proof to prove that the Bible is real is amazing. But anyway, the writer here, Ian, is very, very poetic in his way of writing. I mean, his form of writing and the way that he writes is just amazing. I mean, secretly hide in silence beneath the darkened shadows of their mounds. Now, they're talking about the mountains, okay? The Pyrenees Mountains that separate France from Navarre. There's 2 sets of mountains, but up by the Tudela way, where they're at in Tudela, is the Pyrenees Mountains. And the first picture, if you look at that, the first picture is the Pyrenees Mountains. And then this is autonomous, a countryside of Tudela, the autonomous Navarre, city in Navarre, Tudela, where they're from. This is like the countryside of it, this first picture right here. Now look at the mountains in the background. You know, where he got the inspiration to write what he does. And he took pride in everything, not only documenting what he was asked to do, but he really made this a book to read, something to get a lot of visuals out of, and all that. He's just amazing. He's like my Edgar Allan Poe, you know? I love Edgar Allan Poe, by the way. And then there's another picture of the Pyrenees Mountain, and you can see the small village down there at the bottom of the Pyrenees Mountain. You can see the small village down there. This also is Tudela, and a part of Tudela. So where they were at in Tudela Navarre is where the mountain range met Spain, and then across the mountains is France. This is how close that they were to France. But if you look at the map, you can see where Navarre runs right to the mountain line where France connects to it. So that makes sense. And then I've got a lot of information for you to go over there. But anyway, from Tudela to the Pyrenees Mountains is only 4 hours and 24 minutes away. So they would see the mountains. I mean, you would see the mountains from Navarre, actually. But be able to be that small, you know, I mean, that village, to be in that village and only be 4 hours away from large mountains, of course you're going to be able to see their mounds. And I put a little map up here on Google Maps. They're amazing. And it takes 4 hours and 24 minutes. It's 321.1 kilometers from Tudela to the Pyrenees Mountain range. So of course they're going to be able to see the mountains, and as the sun is shining in whatever way the sun is going, it's going to kind of cast a shadow on the village, you know. And maybe he just used that as a visual, or you know, just a way to kind of get his point across to as to where they're at. uh as I said, I love his writing. I love his writing. And then he continues on to saying, we moisten slender reeds from a vial, giving protection to the laws of God. We strike life into every line and symbol, providing security to the holy word without delay. It leaves us joyous and alive in our souls, for we live in faith, becoming one with whom is merciful. We cease from the sinful laws of imperfection. We turn from living in their anger, for they shall suffer for sure. The eternity of Israel will not lie. Okay, now this is what I find very interesting. They have a lot of technology back then for what they're doing. They have to. Look at what they've done. I mean, they've hidden tiny, tiny symbols inside larger symbols to tell the true story. And they needed magnification. And if you go back to my video where it talks about Roger Bacon, I believe that because Roger Bacon was so adamant about everyone learning Hebrew, and he loved the Hebrew language, that he actually studied with Jewish scholars to learn that language. And I believe that Roger Bacon gave them the technology that they're going to need, not knowing they were going to be doing this, of course. I mean, nobody knew. But I mean, to give them technology to hold on to so they would have it to use makes perfect sense as to, well, they didn't have magnifying glasses or telescopic lenses or microscopic lenses. But yeah, I believe they did, because Roger Bacon in 1293, before he died, in the early or in the mid 1200s, whatever, developed them. He had proof. He spent time in prison because they did not understand the knowledge that he had. So Roger Bacon, I believe, somehow gave the Jewish nation the ability to do what they're doing by giving them the information he had in exchange for them teaching him Hebrew. Okay, now if you look at, all right, they're talking about moistened slender reeds. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm getting back to, I kind of got off track, which I always do. They always had technology. Now, you would think that they would have more technology besides a reed to write with. But really, if you stop and think about it, how perfect could the writing tool be than a reed? Because they had to have something very, very small that would stand up to being dipped in ink. Now, or their whatever they were using to alum or something, or whatever, something that would be fluorescent, that would show up with the light or heat, because back then that's what they did when they had secret messages. And that was going on in the Roman times, hidden messages within the lines, and all of that, that in order for you to read it, you had to heat it up, so it'll bring it out, and things like this. So they had to use some sort of fluorescent, invisible ink of some sort that to put inside the lines like they're doing, because either that or it would just show right up and you would notice it. But you don't notice it until you blow it up, which which kind of magnifies it so you can see what I'm talking about, or see what's going on. But they moistened reeds. Why? Because reeds can be whittled to any size that you need, even if it was a hair, like a strand of hair. And dipping it in the alum, or their liquid that they had from a vial, as they said, dipping it in there would not destroy the reed itself, because reeds grow in water. they're used to being moist. They're used to being soft. So it's not something that would wither or fall away easily or quicker than most things would. Now, Roman times, they used metal styluses, believe it or not, to write. The reed was a pen that was, if you read the information I have down here, the Egyptians developed it 3,000 years ago. They were making pens from reeds so they can whittle the size that they need. 3000 BC, 3,000 years before Christ. I have all the links for you to go up and look at some of the pens. They're amazing, really. I mean, just stop and look at what they did back then, and all this knowledge that they had. And we think we're advanced, but if we really stop and take a look at what they've gone through and what they've developed and what they designed that we have perfected, it just blows my mind, really. But I also have not only the links, but I also have a picture here, which I thought was very interesting. I wanted to show you this because this was kind of around that time, just, maybe a few hundred years later or 100 years later. But it's a picture by Van Gogh using nothing but reeds, so different size reeds or whatever. He did a picture using reeds, and I thought that was really interesting. So you can see detail that you can do using these pens. So I know that they knew what they were talking about. And then the reeds are nothing but what we call cat o' nine tails. Those are the biggest reeds that they used, or the most common reeds that they used, because they were durable, they held out, they dried up really good, and then when you re-moistened them, they still held their shape and were flexible to use. So this is why I believe that they did refer to using reeds that they dipped in the vials, because they knew that they weren't going to fall apart as quickly as, let's say, tightly rolled paper, or maybe a leaf or a limb or a branch or something like that that's not used to being wet all the time. This material made from the reeds, they're wet. They're used to being wet and moist. So they hold their sustainability. They're more apt to go through the re-wetting and the dipping and everything and not fray and fall apart so quickly. But even if they did, all they had to do was just re-whittle it, so they could make the reed 18 inches long, and maybe by the time they were done with one page, it might be only 4 inches long. But it would be something they can continuously and constantly keep whittled down and rewrite it. Yes, why not? Rewrite over and over and over again, and not worry about the whittling, the wearing away really quick. So I got pictures of the reed there. I also got pictures of what they look like when they're dried out and they bundle them up, and how they whittle them down. Look at how they're very ingenious on how they did this. It's just so amazing as to things around them to use in order to accomplish things. And that's what makes them such great, masterful inventors, because they looked for things and then they made them. They compensated by things that they had, but just advanced and enhanced them to work for them. I mean, look at the reeds. Look at how they whittled them down like that. I can see them whittling it really, 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 really tiny, and then just having that little bit of a tip to do the writing. I can see that. I so can see that. And with great with great skill and intense feelings for the laws, we give great pride. I, as well as the others, commend one another for the mental exertion and the virtuous conduct that we live in. We take advantage of the importance of associating the symbols and documenting the final resting place of the laws of God. The misfortune that happened in Seville, and the never-ending battles around us have all of us on high alert. Okay, now, this is why I believe that Ian's family was in Seville the time that they had the great attack in Seville in the late 1390s. I think 5,000 or 4,000 Jewish people were killed in Seville. And I'm going to get to that because I have the story there for you. You have to read it. If you haven't read the history, okay. Hitler was not the only one who really tormented the Jews and slaughtered a lot of Jews. It was a great thing for the Jewish people ever since the crucifixion of Christ. I mean, the Jews kind of brought it on themselves in a way, and even God in the Bible tells us that one day He will open their eyes, but He made them blind. He totally just, you know, put that wall between Him and the Jewish people, and because of that, they're suffering, and they've suffered for hundreds of years, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. We still always have big things about the Jewish people and everything, and I just wish that this world would get on the right track and stay there. It's not going to happen. Not till God comes back anyway. Okay. Now, in 1391, the Massacre of 1391 displayed atheism and a violence against Jews in Spain. It was in the Middle Ages' largest attacks on Jews who were ultimately given the choice of converting or leaving Spain. Now, this was, and then it all ended, basically. It all came to in the mid 1500s, but when Christopher Columbus came over and discovered the New World in 1492 and all of that, that was a big thing. They had to convert or leave, and they were all shipped off. But even prior to that, they still had problems, in Spain. They still had problems. And this right here is a story that I put in there because it is a very interesting one. And it shows the despair. And it shows why it is so important that they do what they do, because they have already seen what man can do. They've already seen it firsthand or heard of it. They live it. Of course, it's going to be told to him. Even if Ian was just a young boy, he could have been a young boy, or he could have been born after the fact when his parents escaped, or some of his family members escaped when he was young and took him with him. Took him with them. The point of the fact of the matter is they do mention Seville, and they mention, what was going on in Seville. And I believe that Ian had firsthand knowledge or firsthand personal validation for this attack, not only because he was Jewish, but because of his age and everything, which we'll find out. We'll get into it, about his age. I think it's in page 3 or 4. But anyway, this is a rendition. This is an artist's rendition of the Seville slaughter. Now, it's kind of hard to look at, depending on how personal you take it, or how it affects you, spiritually. But it's just sickening to me to see things like this. But it's history. And he's bringing these things up because, as he said, he's documenting for his people. He's documenting for the Jewish culture. So it's a history book. They're going to know about Seville, and he's mentioning Seville, so they can put 2 and 2 together, and they're going to understand why it is so important that he documents the way he does. He's a very prolific writer. He gives me tingles in some of the things that he says. I mean, he truly is very poetic in his writing. And then I gave you some links where you can go and you can read about this massacre itself, when it started, who caused the massacre, and what happened during that time, and the violence in Seville. Now let's go over some information on it, because there's some things I need to tell you about really quick. Martinez continued to stir up the people against the Jews as he preached that he would be forced to convert to Christianity. Violence finally erupted on June 6. Around 4,000 Jews in Seville were murdered. Their houses were attacked and destroyed, and those that were killed were terrified into converting in an attempt to not be murdered at all. Martinez was Catholic, And he was actually, I don't want to say for sure he was Pope. He was very close to the Pope. He had a work in the Catholic Church. He was very high standing in the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church backed him. And although there was a lot of kingdoms that went up against him, he would always find a way for the church to go on his side, and then all the Jews would suffer because of that. And then finally, they told him that, you got to stop what you're doing. You can't preach anti-Semitism in the streets and be of a man of God and everything, because we just don't do that. Well, when they finally told him he can't do that anymore and took him down a couple of notches with inside the church, he had already brewed up so much violence and everything in the people around that they were the ones who continued on with the slaughter. And that's what happened in Seville, because they blamed the Jews for him losing his position in the church. And that's how the slaughter started. As I said, I have got the link so you can go and read that story. It's really amazing because it tells you all the kings and the kingdoms that actually stood up for the Jewish people. And even though Jewish people weren't those to, really because the kingdoms, believe that you have to be Christian, you have to convert to Christianity. But, some kingdoms, they really liked the Jews because the Jews had a lot of money, and the kingdoms stayed, running because of the Jewish people. And some kings really gave the Jews some high standings in the community, as in Alfama and Tudela. Tudela was the same way. And that's why when Ian, I'm going to say Ian because I believe he's the writer, when Ian said that no amount of money to pay for the taxes was going to help, that's why we had to leave. Because it finally got to the point where, this is too much. You guys are going to have to be on your own. You're going to have to figure it out, because the kingdoms wasn't protecting them anymore. They decided, okay, we're going to have to do this. And this is a big thing for us, so we've got to go. And they did. And very ingeniously did they. But the violence against the Jews originated in Castile, Leon and Castile and Leon, I would say, and acted as a catalyst for further violence against the Jews. This pattern of violence continued over 70 other cities and towns within 3 months from the time that they did the slaughter in Seville, Spain. 3 months it carried on, and over 50,000 Jews were killed within that 3-month span. It become a sickness that desolated their communities. I mean, that land, it was awful, to say the least. I mean, I'm really speechless. I don't know what else to say except that it was pretty sick. Okay, so anyway, and then I've got, as I said, the Jewish houses, an estimation claimed 50,000 people. Now, of course, if you look it up, they're going to say an estimation of claim, but they're saying they don't believe that there was that many. I believe there was. I just believe that it's just another way of saying that, we're trying to cover something up here. It is what it is. I mean, if it's white, call it white. I mean, seriously, if that happened, it happened. I don't see why you just don't go on with it. It's history. It's what happens. Then I give you other links. And then it says, however, there was a long way to go before the reconquest was succeeded. In the now this is another one you're going to have to go back and read, because this history that I'm finding, through this voynich manuscript is giving me more of a lesson than any education that I have ever gotten in school. Trust me. However, there was still a long way to go before the reconquest would succeed. In the mid-10th century, Almansor appeared on the scene. He led many expeditions into Christian territory over the period of 20 years, and in 997 AD, his army captured Santiago de Compostela. Now, we know that Santiago de Compostela, the tomb of St. James, was found in 819 maybe, 829. I know it was 8 something that this was found. So, approximately 200 years later, Almansor comes onto the scene and does what he does. Okay. He captured Santiago de Compostela. They destroyed the shrine, and the prisoners took the basilica doors and bells to Cordoba, where they would place them in the mezquita. Now, the mezquita, it's their shrine. It's like their shrine. It's a mosque, uh, Moorish or Muslim mosque. I got the link. You need to read about what they did with these bells and, the doors and who they used to move the bells and all that. I'm not going to get into that because that takes a lot, but this is extra reading and it's so informative and so, in a way, inspirational. I mean, what they went through and what they did with the bells and how they got the bells back to Santiago, how Santiago got the bells back. All of that is in the link. You have to read that. But anyway, in 997, the cathedral at Santiago, along with the whole town, was burnt to the ground by a Muslim army commander named Al-Mansur. Al-Mansur Ibn Abi Amir. That is his full name. I'm just going to call him Mansur. It'd be easier for me. He was a religious successor of the Prophet Muhammad. In his fanatical ways of thinking, destroying the fortress of Compostela would bring a mortal blow to Christianity in Spain. However, it did not. This is what he was all about. Of course, this is, the Moors and the Muslims and, the Jewish and the Christianity. I mean, you got a multicultural super bowl of all of these different religions trying to live together. And yet everyone thinks that their religion is over the others or is the true religion. And I think that that's what starts even today. That's what our biggest problem is today is people think that their religion is the real religion or the true religion. And when we really ought to be just saying God is the true religion. I mean, when most get down to it, it's all about God. It's just their beliefs in God that are different. God is the true religion. Go to him and then, you'll see what the true religion is about. But of course, they're not going to do that. No one will. But anyway, he was a religious successor to the Prophet Muhammad. In his fanatical way of thinking, destroying the fortress of De Compostela would end up stopping Christianity. That's what he was wanting to do. He was asked not to desecrate the tombs of St. James. Al-Mansur ignored any pleas from the Catholic priests and the Christian lords and looted the grave of St. James, searching for religious treasures. Okay. Now, the Christian lords were the ones who really were backed by the Catholic Church, and they told them, don't destroy the tomb. You can destroy anything in the city or anything around the city. Please don't destroy the tomb. And he, of course, being ignorant as he was, you'll see when you read about him, trust me, he did anyway. And then I've got a link on here to Santiago de Compostela when the cathedral was built, how it was how it was built, where the body of St. James is, the whole history on the cathedral. So you can read that. Okay, now, and this is verified, this is verifiable evidence. According to the American Catholic Quarterly, a translation from the Manual of Cambradores written in the local ancient Galatian dialect, it says, Al-Mansur lowered himself through the opening in the upper church floor leading to the sacred crypt. This is where St. James is being kept. Once inside the tomb, he found praying before the shrine a monk, a majestic and venerable man. With great reproach, the monk reminded Al-Mansur of all the bloodshed he had caused and the pain and suffering of his sacrileges that he had committed. The monk told him, God's justice will be executed and you will not return to Cordoba alive. Of course, being as ignorant and as stubborn and everything as Al-Mansur was, he continued to destroy the fortress of the church above the tomb of St. James, the entire city now nothing more than a heap of rubble. Al-Mansur continued on with his reign of terror and led several other expeditions. Fortune and good luck followed wherever he went. Now, not only did he continue on with his destruction of the temple, he actually stole some artifacts from there too. It's mentioned in the Catholic Quarterly of what was taken and all of this. I mean, he was blatant. No matter what anybody said to him, he was going to do what he wanted to do because he thought he was right. And when you're met and faced with somebody with that much passion because they believe in what they're doing is right, it's hard to deter them. It's hard to just, it'd be like a slap on the wrist. And he didn't care that, God was going to punish him because he didn't believe in that God. He didn't believe in their God. The monk was telling him, but he didn't believe it. So he went on to do what he had. It says he had good luck and fortune everywhere he went. He did several raids from de Compostela, from Santiago de Compostela to Medina, and he did several raids. He succeeded in every single one of them. But then he got to Medina, where his entire army of men was struck down with a fearful pestilence of cholera. Okay, Almansir befell victim to the plague and died before returning home, just like the monk told him that you will not make it back to Cordoba alive. And Almansir, of course, just said, yeah, I'm going to, but he didn't. And it says it was documented that no one, not one man, suffered the way Almansir did on that fateful day. His men covered their ears so they would not hear the gnashing of his teeth or the screams of his discomfort. He died amidst the most excruciating tortures. His own men were documented in saying, there was no one that deserved more pity than our chief. This story also is something you need to look up and read about because I just kind of skimmed over it, but I'm just giving you the history of past things that has gotten Ian and them so full of anxiety because they've witnessed firsthand or have had history of what can happen, and they didn't want to take that chance. That's why it was so important for them to get this done, get that Ark of the Covenant out, get it in a place that's safe that no one can find. And that's why it's so important to them. That's the whole picture I'm trying to get to you. This is why this documentation is so important. Now, if you notice where it says that he burned down the entire city and it was nothing but stone and ash, in the wheel page, when I get to the wheel page, that has got some graphic and very, very spiritually sad and graphic information on that. But it does say in the wheel page, it says in the translation, it says beneath the ash and stone is where he lays. And they're talking about St. James. Now remember, this happened in 9 something, okay? They didn't start, writing until, the mid 1400s or, early 1400s, when they're documenting, in the 1450 sums. So they mention that beneath the ash and stone, because when they went back to redo Santiago de Compostela and build it, if you read the links that I give you about the burning of the building and the restoring of Santiago, I mean, they were hauling ash away by feet, by feet, by feet. There were so many ashes that was on top of the tomb of St. James. And I just find that very poetic that they even mention it in the wheel, beneath the ash and stone. So, I mean, it's really amazing how they just dictate things, together. So everything just goes together. It's amazing. Well, anyway, you can read that and go back and read that, that passage because it's amazing. It says, we continue to elude the civilian clans by staying alive in our small village while we save the gifts from God by secretly giving supplication and cover. The township people are abundant and live peacefully. Many who walk by and see us desire to be civil. In other words, they don't really bother them too much. They're in Tudela. They're in a town. One, it's been a Jewish culture for years, so the people who are there don't bother with them. You know, the people who are in the town don't bother with them. They just let them do what they're going to do, because Jewish people did what they were going to do. And the townsfolk weren't bothered by them, and the Jews weren't bothered by the townsfolk. So they were able to do their job and not be questioned. It says, light evaporates quickly. I will view the divine writings with high aspirations. Okay. Now, I believe that what they're talking about here, where he says the light evaporates quickly, they're always talking about moonlight to read it. To read it, in order to read the writings that they have in between the lines on the wheel page, or in between, you know, the symbols. If you bring it out with the moonlight, you'll be able to see them, and it's a lot easier reading. And I believe this is what he's talking about with the moonlight. He'll be able to read them quickly, or easier. But this is my theory. I'm not for sure. He could just be talking about the sunlight. You know, that the sunlight's going. So, you know, they only have so much light. I doubt very much they would do it by lamplight, because I don't think it would be enough light to blow things up and see and do the detail that they've got to do. So I think it's during the day that they did the charting, but then I could be wrong. I don't know, but this is my theory. And it says the survival of God's laws is being salvaged by a group of men with tithe and a common interest. We strive to live in triumph over the darkness of the world. Relaxed and calm, we hide from the evil that lives outside the civil township. Long live the King and the divine epistle message. It is my civil manner for our people, by way of telling what it takes to evolve and bring life to the laws by paving their legacy from a vial. The revival of the works on vellum, done cleverly with writings to elude any king, to ensure the written works will be safe. They had everything mapped out. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, and it took them a while to get the right artwork, to get the right alphabet together, to get everything the way that they needed it done, because they wanted somebody to find it and be so mesmerized by its look and oddity that there was no way they were going to throw it away. You know, they would automatically look at it and say, this has got to be something important, because most codexes were, most written works in code were, you know, whether it be the work of God or the written work of God or scriptures or whatever, all codes had something important to say. So he knew that looking at it, and then looking at the medical book, of course, because back then they were highly collectible and kingdoms wanted them. They didn't want anything that looked like a medical book to be destroyed. They knew exactly what they were setting out to do. They knew what they had to do in order to make sure that everything was salvaged and everything was saved, way after that they had done hidden the Ark of the Covenant. And this is what their whole thing was. They were very intelligent people, very smart. They knew where they needed to go, and they set forth to do it, to get the job done. And then look, here it is, 2022, some 700 years later, or 600 and some years later. So they did it. They did exactly what they tried to do back then without even knowing it. Long live the King and the divine epistle message. Okay. And it is my civil, okay. The revival of the works on vellum, done cleverly with writings to elude kings, to ensure the written works will be safe. Our intentions are good, and life will survive through the struggle. Living among the township, I am the center and way by everyone, that it is my right to keep possession of the laws of God while living among the evil until the duty I was called upon is done, to salvage the gifts from heaven and give them a place to rest. And this is Navarre, June 10th, 1452. This I like, because June 10th, that's my birthday. I mean, come on now. You know, that makes me, it makes me happy, you know, to come up with June 10th of all dates. But then it says, I, Ian, am documenting our civilian living and what it takes to produce the art. We gave the lines a smoothness instead of something done roughly in poor quality that would give an extremely unpleasant appearance. We took pride in the work, so it would be compared to something that would be purchased. Ensuring the linen will last, we created the art to donate an artistic technique that would lead astray anyone destroying works in that time and year, to be idolized and confiscated if found, for this would grant it long life. Hiding the truth within the lines of this work and making it appear peculiar and odd is our objective. So the men who would come from the kingdoms to destroy our religions would take it, and they believe they have done something useful by idolizing the work. We availed the 10 laws of God by hiding them in plain sight. In the Sevillian year 1451, beneath the inks and dyes lies the divine. The laws of the 2 stones have been transformed for the better with an artistic flair. The final hiding place of our Heavenly Father's spoken words have been hidden within the art. We remain mild and loyal while we are living among the evil as civil till the end. We continue vigil and stay in cover until we avail the word of God and our right to keep possession of the relics. Now, even though he's saying here, he's saying here that they completed, or they're nearly completed, or they completed the written works, what it is they set out to do. I don't know. I wish I knew. I can't tell you. I can't tell you how long it took them, or how many hours a day they worked on this, or how many days a week, a month, a year. I mean, I don't know. They were very persistent. So, I mean, getting it done was definitely done. But I think the final hiding place, what they're talking about, is not so much the entire book of artwork. I believe that there was different sections that were put together, that different people did different parts of it. And I believe he was the one who wrote within the lines on the wheel and documented the way to find it. I believe that, that's what he did as far as documenting. I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I could be more specific for you so you'd understand. But no matter what it is, the work that they set out to do, he had completed. Okay? And it says, for what lies within the lines are things that men desire, and their greed will be their demise. They will sell them for their souls to the death of evil. For inside holds the 10 that bear good news, the Godstones that we believe are necessary to exist. The sky gives way to the laws of God, the real gifts of life. We finalize our voyage with the seals of 4. Behold the moon and its light as it lays upon the vellum. Use it to read on and find the non-existent sin in its contents. This is why I am building me a special table, and it has 3 different light rays in it. Has the moonlight, synthetic sunlight, and then black light, UV light, red light, blue light, all the different variations of light manipulation. So one of them is going to be able to bring out the shadowing of anything high resolution. Even a high resolution copy is going to pick up things that we don't see with our eye, but the high resolution is going to pick it up within the mass of things it's copying. So I'm hoping that by the time I'm done with this table, which I'm waiting on one more part now, just one, just a specific light source that I'm waiting on, and then I can put everything together, and the glass top where I can put all my paperwork on and see if it works. I am hoping this works. I believe it's going to. I believe I'm going to blow my own mind, actually. But until then, this is what they're talking about. Use the moon and its light as it lays upon the vellum. Now, on the wheel page, it tells you how to harness the moonlight through a tube. So I said, wait till you get to the wheel page. It's amazing. It's amazing the information that this thing gives. Okay, the hierarchy was worried and wanted them removed from the idolizing men of anger and greed, those who do not live by the stones. We see the sins of the civilian lives, and it is up to us to protect what was given to us from heaven. Devoting our lives while living in the village under cover, we heeded to the warning and took charge before others did. There was little time. Now, the 4 that they're talking about, where they gave him a resting place in the 4, this is what I call the alphabet page. This is where I found the way to decode to find the letters and variables that they're using in order to make the symbols that are on the page. Because if you look on this page, the second rim of writing that's going down, there's 24 characters that are individually spaced that is nowhere else in the book. And this is where I found out how to do it. I'll get more in depth than that after, but the point I'm trying to prove right now is those blank rims that are in there, there's secret messages hidden in there that I need to bring out. I need to bring them out in order to find the next place where I need to go. This entire page has already been, I've completely decoded this entire page, and I will get to that. That's the wheel page. It's called the wheel page. The story that is on that changed my life. Truly changed my life forever. So, okay, so get off of that subject. This is the alphabet page. This is where they hid everything. This is where they tell you how to harness the moonlight to use it to read and to find the hidden messages and the hidden passage to the prophet. Okay? And then, of course, and then you have the blank rims I'm showing you here. This is where all the hiding is. You need the moonlight or specific shades of light in order to read that right there. And these four people, the four in the center, are directions. They're directional. They're north, south, east, and west. And I've already proved 2 of them. I haven't gotten the other ones yet because it's a little tough. I'm having a hard time with that one. But I do know that they are directional. That's why they say they sealed them with the 4. Not only are they representation of north, south, east, and west, they each have their own star quality. So, navigational points in the sky. Okay, the mountains that are before us and their men come to excavate and bring with them their armies. They look for the wisdom and knowledge, evading our village in search of our religion. They do not seek with their hearts, but for idols with greed. A levy of people now with us from the forest. A noble friend says nothing of the life we are living or the work we do to hide the truth. He keeps our secrets. The city of Lyon comes in wildly, disrupting our township living. We are far from being successful in our completion of the final resting place. Having our works destroyed is our concern and greatest fear. They search for the noble one who is from among us. You can tell the men who come do not live by the laws of God, not with their wild township living. I pray silently that the evil does not occur and destroy our works. They come in search of the prince. If they see the writings and relics, Satan's army from the inland will destroy them. The prince is held in high regard by the people. This is the reason they invaded our township. I pray silently while the evil surrounds us. They live their lives for the idols, but for now they return to their stronghold without our works. 1451 gave high expression, looking for the prince. Okay. We know that the war started between Navarre and France, 1451 to 1454. You could go and read about all of that, but I do know that the Kingdom of Navarre was looking for the prince because they wanted him arrested. They wanted to arrest him. The people loved the prince. The people of Navarre loved the prince. They didn't care for the king. You can go read the history on that too. But and then this was in August 13th of 1452. Okay. I don't know. See, I go over and over and over on these dates. Please don't hold me accountable for the dates. I'm not for sure on them because even though I go over and over, are you sure this is 1452? Or is there something I'm missing? Is there another 1 or a Roman numeral X or something? Is there something there I'm not seeing? Because I'm just thinking that maybe the documentation was done and dated. Because on the wheel page, it clearly shows in invisible writing, I was able to bring it out. it clearly shows the date of 1452. So I don't know if they documented everything as they, when they did the documentations, if they dated everything at that time. I don't know. So together we'll piece this all together. We'll put it all together. But it says, we decide to seal it with the 4 to ensure its destiny. As for me, nothing will stop me from completing the delivery of the final resting place and document our struggles until the task at hand is finished. I remain steadfast in Seville, protecting the relics and art from the mountain's men. They hope to yield only idols in this millennium. We can hide from the evil within the mass of people. We bear witness to the kingdoms delving our camps in the year of our Lord 1451. The survival and protection of our relics depends on me. I sit by the river and pray for the demons who have now retreated. We will take advantage of the light for now. The anger over our Bibles try to force us into conversion or else die by their sword. They want us to live by their religion. It is not godlike. Nothing in their words or Bibles promotes strong feelings and emotional ties. We will stay alive and protected, moving with the pilgrimage. We come into the city on principle alone. We hear them wildly trying to convince the people to live life anew and be reborn. We see their anger intensify and deep. It is nothing like the life of divinity we live. They close in with brutality like wild men. I stay calm and remain close to giving protection of the art and relics needed. They go to the river and stand vigil. They come to the water to seize from us our Bibles. Nothing in our lives leaves them with doubt. I was cultured and polite, ready to die for the life to protect the spoken words of God. Willingly they went away. We are unjust in our brother's eyes. Determination and courage were the factoring keys to our survival. Civilian Living, September 22nd, 1452. Okay. All of this is basically what they've been saying the whole time. One key point I want to make a fact of is when he talks about their Bibles, okay, the evil, I can see why he uses the metaphors of demons and all of that, because it is kind of, men being possessed with evil is demonic. Their actions are demonic. And the way he writes, I mean, he is so prolific when it comes to his way of getting things out that it just leaves nothing more for the imagination. You should clearly get everything that he's talking about. He stays calm, okay, and he stays calm, giving close protection to the art and relics needed. They go to the river and stand vigil. They come to the water to seize from us our Bibles. Nothing in our lives leaves them with doubt. He pulled it off and stayed and remained calm and completely coherent of what he was doing, that they never even considered that they, that they were Jewish people, or maybe that they didn't even consider they were a threat. They just went on their way, because he says that they do leave, but they are unjust in their brother's eyes. In other words, their religion is unjust, unjustifiable to anybody else. And, that's what they're fighting and trying to protect, is their religion. And that's what it's all going for. But anyway, that's page 2. Now, page 3 will be coming up. I'm not going to give you a time. I'm not going to give you a time as to when it's going to come up. It's just going to come up when I can get it up, because I don't like disappointing you guys when I say that I'm going to do something and then I can't do it. Like when I went to a vacation and said I was going to do a video. I tried my hardest to do a video, but things just got out of the way, and my daughter's wedding was absolutely beautiful. It was absolutely wonderful. I was just so proud, and I wish her all the luck. I got to see my grandchildren, and now I'm home again, and I'm getting myself back to work. Okay, now something that's coming up this year that I've got a project I'm doing, besides, of course, doing my voynich. My brother does filmmaking. He's into filmmaking. And he's really actually very good. He's very good. He's spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on his equipment and the stuff that he uses to do his filming. He's doing an independent film. He's finishing it off, and then he wants to do a documentary on me and my voynich, in my journey in the voynich, and we are going to do a full-length documentary of me, what I've uncovered, what the voynich is about, in my beliefs as to what it is, and how I come about deciphering what I have and how I found the message that I'm getting out of it. It's going to be very interesting. This is going to take a while. It's going to take time because I want everything perfect. And it will premiere on my channel. It will premiere on my channel before it premieres anywhere else. So you guys will be able to see it first. The ones who believe in me and who's followed me all this time and has stayed with me. I appreciate you guys. I love you. You have no idea. Every time I get a comment or whatever, and the praise I get from you is just, it's unbelievable. And it means so much to me. It really does. You have absolutely no idea. There's not many things in life that I can give anyone, you know, except my, you know, ability to captivate you, maybe, or tell a story, you know, and stuff like that. But when people appreciate what I do and can give, that just makes all the difference in the world to me. And I really, truly, truly appreciate it. And I love it. So I'll go ahead and sign off because sometimes I get really winded. This one might be longer than my other ones, actually. I think it is, really. But anyway, that is the information. I'll get page 3 up eventually, but I am going to push forward and get Galatia, Spain done, because then that way you can see everything that's going on. And there is something hidden in the center of it, I found, that I'm trying to verify. And if I can do that and pull everything together, so I'll have Navarre and Lisbon and Pont de Leon and Galatia to prove that it's a chain reaction and everything that they're going. I mean, I've already proved it to me, but I want you to see exactly what I see, and then you get that feeling too. But until next time, guys, stay safe, peace be with you, and remember, just be happy, you know? Make people happy, be kind, be nice. And it takes one person, it takes more than one person to change the world, but it definitely takes many to lead the way. Or only one to lead the way. Yeah, that's what it is. It only takes one to lead the way. But anyway, I love you. Bye.